2. I'm hoping that the sound is okay. Apologies to those of you that joined me live 5 minutes ago. We had an odd, I could hear it when I put it on playback, so hopefully it is okay now. I'll just wait to hear any comments just to make sure that that we are good to go. I've no idea what it was, so do give me a shout, let me know if this sound is better. Oh good, thank you Carol. Excellent, we're off. Right, so my desk seems to be rather cluttered around the edges, so I'm hoping it's not all going to slip onto my work surface. So, good evening again, it's Jenny McCormack, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the market town of Brackley, that's in Northamptonshire. This is our second take for our evenings live. Hi Chris, nice to have you join us. So the set that we're using, which is our stamp set of the week and the one that we're using for coffee and card on Friday and Monday, is called Detailed Dogwood, as you can see. And this is one of the stamp sets you can get for free during celebration. It features this lovely dogwood flower image here, and then we've got the smaller buds, we've got a flower that matches the flower punch, we've got some foliage and some other little bits and pieces, some very useful dots and some useful slightly more vintage looking pieces. So I did a live on Monday with this, and this was the card that we made live, and I stamped that with espresso ink and covered that in with blends pens. So there are some alternatives, or ones that I've done since then, coffee and card. This one here is also blends pens. This one is done with watercolour pencils and a blender pen, and I'm going to show you that technique shortly. This one is also watercolour pencils, and then I've added in a little bit of that vintage style on that particular one. It's on a larger card base. And then this is one that I'm going to recreate this evening also. This is stamped in Versamark and white embossing powder attached on top, and then it's heat set. And then I've used an aqua painter and some water to soften that whole effect and to do the colouring in. So it looks quite light, obviously, because I've used white embossing powder. You do definitely need a fine powder for this because it's a very detailed stamp. We do have another stamp set in the new mini catalogue which would be perfect. So when my copy of that arrives, I will show you that technique as well. So lots of different things that you can do with this. So I thought it was a good opportunity just to revisit some techniques you may have forgotten, because it's also easy to do. So the first one I'm going to do with this stamp is I'm going to stamp the main image, and I'm going to stamp that with stays on, and then use the watercolour pencils and a blender pen. Now the good thing about this is you can use standard card. This is our thin basic white card. You don't need to use watercolour paper. If you've got watercolour paper, then you can use the watercolour pencils with an aqua painter or a paintbrush. So I'm just quickly going to ink this up, and I've got stays on black ink. I have to remember to do it a little bit higher. For some reason my camera's a little bit far back, but I'm not going to move it just in case. Okay. So I'm just going to turn this round to make it easier to stamp. Pop this on, and I've cut this out with the scallop dies, and this is one of my favourite sets for cutting out dies for coffee and card. So there's our stamped image, like so, and I'm going to use watercolour pencils, which are right here. This one's here. And really you can choose, you can use any watercolour pencils. These are obviously Stampin' Up ones. They coordinate with our colours. So I've got, what haven't I done? Let's see. I might do some yellows and oranges because I've not done any of those. So I've got yellow and orange, and then a couple of greens for the leaves. So that's looking for a different green. I've got Granny Apple Green, that will probably do the job. Didn't really want Old Olive. That's what I'm after. With Garden Green. So our watercolour pencils are in our main catalogue, and they last for ages. Oh, good morning, Cindy. Great to hear that you're making cards while you're watching me. Thank you for coming back. These watercolour pencils last for ages. These are the original set that I have purchased, and I have no idea when I bought them, many years ago. And obviously you're only using a small amount at a time. So let me take my glasses off, and I'm just going to do the leaves very quickly. You don't have to do two colours. You could just use one colour. So I'm just laying down the darker garden green in the centres. A lot of people have watercolour pencils and forget they've got them. Mainly I think because they're in a small little box and they're probably tucked away under some other crafting stuff. So I'm just laying down that colour. There's one leaf in there and a little one tucked in here, which everybody seems to forget, like so. And then I'm going to use the lighter colour just to go over, and then I'm going to use a blender pen to move those together. Now you can use an aqua painter and water as long as you've got watercolour paper. Blender pen doesn't have water in it. It has like a glycerin, so it doesn't buckle the paper, which is what happens if you use water directly. Okay, so I'm going fairly quickly. It's really just a reminder. And the nice thing about watercolour pencils, of course, is they don't go through to the back. Carol loves her watercolours. Hi, Trudy. And so I've got a blender pen here. Our blender pens come in a pack of 3. They're double-sided, so there's one on each end. Double-ended, I should say. And it's exactly the same right the way through, but it gives you 2 tips, so you can have one colour on one side and one on another. I always run it across my finger or across a piece of paper to make sure it's clean to start with, and then all you're going to do is literally just paint over the area, and that will blend those colours together. I should have left one blank for you to see. So, and if you wanted a little bit more colour on a particular place, then what you can do is pick up the colour directly from the watercolour pencil. you could also pick up the colour from your ink pads. So if there was an ink colour you didn't have a watercolour pencil for, you could just pick the ink up that way, and then you can paint with that. Just get a scrap of paper so you can see us picking up the colour here. And if you wanted to pick up the darker colour, you could do the same thing. So this is the garden green. Hi Kerry, and a happy birthday to you, Kerry. I believe it is your oh, is it still your birthday? No, it's not. It was yesterday, wasn't it? I do apologise, Kerry. There is a card on its way to you. But of course you're 12 hours ahead, give or take. So happy birthday for yesterday, Kerry. So you can see, and then if you want to change the colour, then you can just run that blender pen over some paper until it runs clear. It's surprising how much colour it picks up, but you want to keep running it till it runs clear. If you always use green on this, then what I would do is label this up with green on one side, and then if you always use a different colour on the other end, you can label that up. I'm going to do oranges and yellows, so I'm going to use the other end. So just to show you that you can pick up this colour, as I said before, and just paint with it. Like so. There we go. So there's a little bit of orange on there. So I'm just trying to get my phone back so I can see. There we go. Okay, so it's nice and easy. You don't have to worry so much about blending. If you're not very competent in blending with our blends pens, then give your watercolour pencils a go. And obviously this could be watercolour, it could be ink, it could be ink refills, all very similar techniques. So I'm going to do this fairly quickly and then move on to a different technique. So just colouring this in. This is Daffodil Delight. Like so. Nice to have a different colour rather than the blues and the pinks that I've done already. Like so. Now I have to say that Linda, who was crafting with us on Tuesday, I didn't have the colour that she was after for the flowers, so she stamped it, coloured in the leaves, and it looks stunning, just left white. If you saw my post, which I think was yesterday, and if not you can go back and have a look, it looked really stunning because it was, you know, it really stood out against the background. So don't forget, you can leave white spaces. And as well as this is picking up the colour obviously that's laid down, and if you want to get rid of that, change colour, just scribble it off, as I said, on a piece of scrap paper. It is basic white card, yeah, basic white card. And that's the benefit of using the blender pen, because you don't need to have a watercolour card, because you're not adding water to it. Now we've got the what do you call those? The stems of that. So I could grab a brown watercolour pencil. So I've got Early Espresso, I've got Cajun Craze, a little bit of Early Espresso just to add to this. There's only a tiny amount of stalk really, like that. And then again, just run your blender pen, and these come in a pack of 3, I think I said that. And they are interchangeable, but you could keep one colour for one end. Now if you don't have a blender pen, you can do the same using a Wink of Stella brush. So the Wink of Stella will add glitter, but because it's not water directly, you can still apply it and it will pick up some of the colour. So I'm just applying this over the top. And I know that this isn't really you're not really going to see a lot of this shine until this dries. But I'll just show you that you can pick up the colour. And when your Wink of Stella's run out, don't throw them away. Keep it, because you can fill it with a little bit of either water or glycerin, and that'll reactivate some of the glitter that's left in the barrel. So even with the Wink of Stella pen, you can pick up some of this colour, and you'll get it not only coloured but glittered. So I'm adding, I don't know if you can see that, I'm adding a little bit of the orange pumpkin pie to my flowers just by applying this. So you could do this for the whole stamped image if you wanted to, and not lay down the colour first. What you must make sure is that when you finish, you just wipe any glitter off your watercolour pencil. Otherwise you might wonder why it's not working next time round, because it's coated in glitter. So this is the second technique really, which is to use your watercolour pencils with a Wink of Stella glitter brush. And as I say, you have the added bonus that it's glittery. And I know it won't really show against these lights, but it's very glittery when it dries. It's a bit difficult to show it in the light here. It might pick out, not sure. Okay, so let's find the top for that, and also make sure that you take that ink off the end of your Wink of Stella. Otherwise you might be disappointed when you come to glitter something that it comes out orange, because in this case there's some orange left on the brush. So just make sure that it's running clear, like so, and also make sure that you wipe down your watercolour pencil. I've got a cloth but I can't see it. Okay, so that's the first sort of two techniques, if you like, which is using a blender brush. It's a confusing name, isn't it, because we have blends pens. I just want to get rid of the end of this, make sure this is clean as well. There we go. as I say, if you get a set of 3, so if you use colours on a frequent basis, then I would put labels on each end, so green, orange, pink, blue, for example, and then you don't have to be quite so critical about cleaning up afterwards. One thing they are also good for is picking up white ink and painting with that. Okay, so there's our first sample. The next one we're going to do is this one here, which is using Versamark ink, so clear watermark ink, and then embossing it and then going over with a paintbrush and ink, either from a refill, ink refill, or ink from an ink pad. So let's grab a piece of watercolour paper for this, because we are adding water and you do really need watercolour paper in order for it to absorb the water. Just putting those away before I lose them, because I'll need them for cooking card tomorrow. Put them back where they belong. So the first thing I'm going to do for this is to use our anti-static pad to go over our piece of watercolour paper. One of the big problems that people tend to find with heat embossing is flecks of embossing powder getting stuck. So the trick is not to handle your card too much before you use it, for starters, and to use an embossing buddy to go over, and that's basically like an anti-static wipe. I'm going to use white embossing powder and Versamark ink pad, which is this one here. So it's a watermark stamp pad, and I need to make sure that this is clean before I do anything else. Whoops a daisy. So let's clean that off. So I hope everybody has had a good day, and for Kerry and anybody overseas, you have a good day ahead of you, unless you're in America, in which case, well, no, you will have a good day ahead, but it will be today, not tomorrow. Okay, so I'm going to ink this up with Versamark ink, just making sure it's nicely coated. It is a very detailed stamp. And then I'm going to stamp that probably in the same sort of position here. Obviously you could make this go horizontal or vertical, portrait or landscape, whichever you prefer. Okay, so good amount of pressure. Oh, that wasn't very clean, Jenny. Okay, I'm sure it'll be alright, and if not I'll do another one. So you shouldn't really see that image, I hadn't cleaned it very well. Okay, so I'm going to add some white embossing powder, and hopefully that will cover up my ink. Okay, like so. Like that. Just give it a little flick from the back. So, brush off the excess, which shouldn't really be there, and grab my heat tool. So I'm just going to heat this and put it on its highest setting, allow it to heat up, and then heat the embossing powder till it melts. So I'm just going to move that hopefully slightly away from the microphone. Oh. The gremlins are at play. Got it. So I'm just allowing this to heat up first. and I'll do some of this off camera. And I'm just working my way around the image. And you know when it's all done, when the whole thing is shiny. There's a tiny little bit here that I've missed on the edge. Yep, I think we've got it. Okay, what you don't want to do, and I see a lot of people doing, is moving this around too much. What you want to do is allow it to heat up first, and then just move it across your image nice and slowly. Okay, now a little bit of that colour has come through from my ink, but I think I will be okay. Oh, Cindy's got forecast of freezing temperatures and possible snow. Oh, bless you. It's 3 degrees centigrade here, 3 or 4 degrees, and they keep threatening snow, but luckily so far it's missed us. I mean, I do like a bit of snow as long as I haven't got to go anywhere. Right, I'm just going to bring in this silicone mat. Now this silicone mat is actually free with the glass mat if you join our team between now and the end of February. And this is part of the glass mat studio. So we have the glass mat, we have this, and we have a cloth. This is perfect if you don't have a little palette or saucer or something you can use. So what I'm going to do is go around the outside with a light colour, and I know this looks blue, but I'm hoping it isn't anymore. Just going to spritz a little bit of water in this section here, and I'm just going to go paint this around the edge. Like so. And then I'm going to add a little bit of colour. Now I could actually go around the whole thing because I am going to add more colour, but I'm just going to leave it like that for the time being. And I'm going to add some bubble bath ink refill. So I'm just going to drop actually a drop and a bit of bubble bath, which is the pale pink, like so. And I can add a bit of water into that. Hi Nicole, good evening to you. And what I'm going to do is just run this aqua painter around the edge, so it's going over the area that I just painted over. Just to give it this effect here, like that. I don't know if you can see that on there. So I've got this here with the very pale pink, and then you can go over the sections in the middle. You can also make it darker if you wish by going over it again. Just to give that sort of soft watercolour look. So this is bubble bath that I'm using, and then I'm going to use berry burrs for colouring my flowers. Or I might use, berry burst I think I'm going to use. So that is the outside of that. Hi Brenda, hope you're feeling okay. There we go. So there's my bubble bath. Now I'm going to add in Berry Burst. So it's useful that you've got different components here. What I might do is add some green as well. Let's see. Okay, this is Granny Apple Green. So I'm going to add that in this one here, like so. Okay, let me just wipe this off. Make sure I clean this good enough. Yep, that's clear. Right, so what I can do now is, I've got this Berry Burst and you can see how deep this is. I can add a little bit more water if I want. So I can spritz some, or I can just take some from the aqua painter. Can I do that without sending it everywhere? There we go. So I can just take a little bit of that, and if I want to get rid of some I can just put it on my mat there, and then I'm just going to go over the flower. And so this is an emboss resist technique. Just lift that up. So where I've got the flower underneath, the petals, where it's got the embossing on it, that resists the ink, and you get left with the white outline, like so. And I can repeat that for the other flower. So I've got this one here, and you don't have to be exact, you can just sort of go over it and then dab it off a little bit if you've gone a little bit over where you need. Okay, let's get rid of a little bit of that, and then we've got a little bud in here, and that's the main bit done. Like so. Okay, now if you've got too much on there, you can use a tissue to lift some of that out. Okay, these are leaves that are left in the middle. So I'm just going to take off some of my ink out of here. And again, it's surprising how much remains on there. So you want to do that really until it's fully clear. And then I've got our Granny Apple Green that I can use over the leaves here. Now, because the edge of this is fairly dry, it's not going to spread too much into the outside edge. So let's see where those leaves are. There's one up there. Little one in there. Hi Sandra. And then these are all leaves. Let's get rid of a bit of that. Up here. There's some leaves there. So because this is very detailed, a lot of the areas that I'm covering over have, if I show you here, detailed lines, so you do lose a bit of that significance here when you're using a light colour, but it does give a really pretty effect, I think, like so. Hopefully you can see that alright. So this is Bubble Bath and Berry Burst for the flowers, and then a little bit of Granny Apple Green for the foliage here. So it has been inked in Versamark and then heat emboss using white embossing powder. I'll get rid of a little bit of this. It never runs out when you want it to, and it always runs out when you don't. Just going to add a little bit more. I want to just dilute it down, like so, to put a little bit more around this edge here. Like so. Just to give me a bit more outline on that flower. And the same here. There we go. And remember, if it goes over anything that's wet, it will start to bleed across. So if you don't want that to happen, just dry it off with a kitchen towel in between. And I want a little bit of pink in there where there's a gap. Like so. And here. There we go. Remember, it will dry lighter once it's dried. And there we are. Just going to make that a little bit darker. So the mat that I'm using here is from the Glass Studio, which you can get for free if you join Stampin' Up between now and the end of February. Okay, I'm just going to bleed that out a little bit, like so. So that's the embossed resist technique with inks and aqua painters. So very soft, very different look to this. I would say it does work better personally with a less detailed stamp, because you get to see more of the detail. But it's a fun little technique, and you can just do a single colour wash if you use especially if you use the large brush that comes in the set of 3. You can literally just brush water across and then add a lighter colour, a medium colour and a dark colour, and that will pop up the design for you up. Let me have a look at the time. Goodness me, 10 to 8. I know we started late after our little initial blip, but I'm going to mount this up. So this is going to go onto Berry Burst cardstock onto a white card, and then this one, which I did with watercolour pencils and a blender pen, and I also did watercolour pencils and Wink of Stella. I will mount this onto a yellow or pumpkin pie, not quite sure, Daffodil Delight, pumpkin pie, one of those, and then put that onto a white card. Hi Tracy, lovely to have you join us. Thank you so much. I loved your names that you did. It was really, really effective. Look forward to seeing more of those. So there we go. So this is the Detailed Dogwood stamp. As I say, this is free with a order between now and the end of February. It does have to be a £90 order. It's a very detailed stamp. One thing I did on this one, but I don't think you can see it particularly on the image on the screen, is when you've coloured it in, is to use a blending brush and just add some of this same colour going over. So you either get a really crisp look or you get this subtle look behind, which I really do like, but it depends on what you like. So this is the one in Azure Afternoon. This is the one that I did on Monday, so you can watch that one live. And remember that even if you use blend pens, you can go back with your Wink of Stella glitter pen and add glitter to your image. So it's not just for watercolouring, if you can see that. It's just a nice little touch if you have one. Let's put that over there. I go through phases. Suddenly everything has glitter on it and then it doesn't for a while. That's just the way it goes, isn't it? So there we are. That is all done. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Some older techniques, as I say, just watercolour pencils and blender pen, using white heat embossing. That didn't come out as well as my blue one, I have to say. I don't know why. Who knows? Maybe I didn't choose dark enough colour for the leaves, but I'm still happy with it. I'll still mount it up. So thank you so much. So this is our stamp set of the week, and one that we're using at Coffee and Card. If you have one of these mats, you can just literally rinse it out underneath the tap, or you can wipe it down, but the easiest thing, to be honest, is just rinse it under the tap and you're good to go next time. These little blocks here actually fit our Stampin' Spots, the little 1-inch ink pads, so you can also put those on there if you wish. So thank you so much excuse me, thank you so much everybody for joining us. It is Thursday evening, so it's just approaching 8 o'clock, so I will be back on Monday morning with our stamp set of the week for next week, and that will be I think the Trusty Tools, which is perfect for any of the handy people in your life. I'm not going to say handymen, but so it features, there are some designer paper that come in Celebration that go with it, but we've got some great tools, hammers, saws, that sort of thing. So I look forward to crafting possibly a male themed card that a lot of people seem to struggle with. So I look forward to catching up with you next week, and do have in the meantime a great weekend, and look after yourselves and your loved ones, and I hope you're able to keep crafting. Thank you so much everyone. Bye for now.